Welcome everybody to Holy Smokes, Cigars of Spirituality. Oh man, we've already gotten started with the live virtual audience. Shout out to our patrons who joined us for our live recordings. This is going to be interesting because we talk about really serious topics, but we also have a lot of fun. And the pre-show has already been rather entertaining. I'm Kristian, the host, the Heretic. I am glad to be here with you today as we talk about how to be an ally, which is a follow-up from our privilege episode that was released last week. So thank you so much for being with us. I'm joined by two of my favorite people, Kervance Ross, the Kingmaker, aka the Dollar General. Grayson Hester, aka Grayson Leviticus, aka Sparkle, aka Grayson from Twitter. And then I actually gave him a new name this week. It just, the Spirit of the Lord just dropped it on me when I was calling him. His new name is Grayson Tyrone Hester. So if you ever,
he just dropped it on me. Just dropped it on me too. Like, picked up the phone and he was like, Grayson Tyrone, and I was just like dead for a whole minute.
Yeah, you look like a Tyrone, dog.
Grayson Tyrone.
Thank you.
I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna get you a stocking cap, and you will be right where you need to be. Get a stocking cap.
we
I
gotta.
don't know if I get that reference.
No, we got to go to the beauty supply store and get him a do-rag. That's what we got to do.
Oh, God.
Hey, man, he ain't ready for the do-rag. He
start with the stocking cap.
And start tucking the tail in the back. Oh, it's gonna be the greatest Holy Smokes ever.
the greatest and the last.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Ronnie, good old Ronnie.
Grayson Tyrone. Yo, and the funny thing is, I didn't even say what his actual moniker is on the show, the Pundit. All those names I mentioned, I didn't even say his actual moniker. I want my friends to go ahead and introduce themselves, and I want you to share with us today, if you're smoking, what are you having? If you're drinking, what are you having? And then got a kind of a icebreaker question today. Who is your favorite freedom fighter or justice icon of all time? And just tell us why in a couple of minutes. So I'm going to start off with the Pundit.
Ooh.
Give it to us.
My name is Minnie. I am Legion, apparently.
Yes.
But for the purposes of this show, my name is Grayson Hester. As you can see, my pronouns are he, him, his, and I am the Pundit. Trying my best to cut out the Dollar Tree from the roots for my own benefit and for the benefit of the listeners. I am not drinking or smoking anything other than some good quality H2O, which I will drink in a presidential way.
Not in a presidential way.
Yeah, I wasn't really feeling any of the vices today because I'm preaching later and I got to have my spirit clean. And part of me wants to say the answer that I know y'all know I'm gonna say for my favorite freedom fighter, justice icon. But yeah, I'm just gonna say it. James Baldwin, obviously. Of course. Love him so much that I have him on a picture on my desk.
Wow.
Yeah. I was at the African American History Museum, the Smithsonian, and they have like a series of postcards in the gift shop, and they had one of James Baldwin, and I just felt led to buy it, so I did, and now he's at my desk, inspiring me and chastising me constantly. But why Baldwin is consistently my favorite, and why I do genuinely, I quote him all the time, partially because I do love him that much, but also he represents for me, I think, a real turning point in my continual journey of becoming more anti-racist, becoming more justice seeking, because I took a intensive seminar course my second semester of seminary called James Baldwin, where it was like 8 students. We read 11 books in 3 months of James Baldwin, which if anyone's read him, you could read one essay and spend an entire semester talking about it. And so just the sheer volume of his writing, the amount of time I spent with him and his work and his words, and the deep, deep spiritual crisis that it put me through. Kristian can remember, I'm sure, some of our conversations during that year of how just kind of spiraling I was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was good. Like, I'm sure it was not fun for him to sit through me being like, "Hey, Kristian, you know everything is fucked, right?"
He was so dramatic. I was like, it's gonna be okay, Grayson. I promise you. He was like, I don't know what's happening, and life is just all over the place, and it's so dark and spiritually bleak. I was like, Grayson, it's gonna be okay.
Hashtag boyfriend, right? And yeah, it was a dramatic time. But I credit James Baldwin so much with revealing to me privileges and biases and racist beliefs I didn't even know I had, and continue to have, but I at least know about them now. So just the way that he was a huge voice for LGBTQ people, even before that was a moniker, writing about it in the 50s, when it was at great risk to his career, when other Black activists were calling him Martin Luther Queen, which I find funny, but also sad. Like, he's just incredible. So he will always be my favorite author. I tear up when I see him just out in the world, like on posters and quotes and stuff. So he's the best. And yes, Ariana, he is my boyfriend.
Thank you, Grayson Tyrone. Let's go to the Kingmaker.
Greetings and salutations, everybody.
Hallelujah.
Grateful to be here, excited, honored. Today, I am smoking a Holy Smokes
Yes.
hand roll.
Oh my!
Today.
Oh my!
Yeah, I brought it out just for our podcast, Full Body Maduro, Holy Smokes, established 2019. And I am drinking my black water for branding purposes and health purposes. I'm also drinking Crown Royal XO at the same time. And my favorite freedom fighter is Harriet Tubman. She's one of my favorites, number one, because she's the most unlikely face of freedom. Secondly, most people don't realize that her first segment of being a slave, she was a tobacco farmer until her owners moved over to their main crop to wheat. So she was a main reason why we have cigars. Simply because against her will, she was cultivating tobacco. Thirdly, one of the greatest stories about Harriet Tubman is that, unfortunately, one of her slave owners bludgeoned her early on in her life over the head. And that left her with severe epilepsy, extreme migraine headaches, and even with her setbacks, she would blank out, fall asleep, or go into what they call dreamlike trances at any given moment without warning. And in her mind, even though the enemy meant it for evil, she believed that God spoke to her when she would black out, give her direction on freedom. And she didn't allow her trauma or her circumstance to keep her from her purpose and her destiny. And a lot of people that had been saved by her journey and her passion would say she was closer to God than anybody they knew, because when she would go into these trances, people clearly believed that God was imparting vision when somebody was trying to take her life. And she
Wow.
stated often, I could have saved a lot more slaves if they had just known that they had the potential to be free. And for a woman to do this, to have gone through so much trauma, to have gone through so many circumstances, and equipped herself with a rifle to keep other slaves from snitching, because although she was saving people, everybody didn't want to be saved. So sometimes she made sure that whether you want to be saved or not, what you're not going to do is stop us who's going to be saved. And she made sure she held them at gunpoint just so that they wouldn't minimize those who wanted to be saved. So as a freedom fighter, somebody grew up with women in my household all the time. Harriet Tubman is my number one.
I love it. I love it. Way to bring the ladies into it. I was actually thinking before you got started, I was like, man, I hope one of us says a lady, because
I was thinking it too.
mine isn't. Because I just got to be honest about who my favorite is, and there are a number of incredible women freedom fighters and justice icons that I think highly of. But my favorite is Fred Hampton. Fred, and you know, that might be an interesting pick in some people's eyes, because Fred Hampton didn't really get an opportunity to see the extent of his potential. But he was over the Chicago leg of the Black Panther Party, and in his early 20s, the thing I love about Fred Hampton is he was bringing people together to build coalitions. So he was bringing together Black people in impoverished communities, white people from impoverished communities, Latinx people from impoverished communities, all into one coalition to say, hey, there is strength in our numbers. There is power when we get together to affect change. And one of my favorite quotes from Fred Hampton is, you know, you can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill a revolution. So he really believed in power to the people, and not just about building himself up or his own fame. And you know what he was doing was important because the establishment killed him. I think at the age of 22, Chicago PD and the FBI murdered Fred Hampton in his bed.
Yep.
And of course, just like they do today, they tried to act like he was aggressive towards them. So what we saw with Breonna Taylor, I want to say that name again: arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor. Arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor. Arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor.
Arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor.
Exactly.
Arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor.
Exactly. That's what they did to Fred Hampton, because he was affecting change in a major way. So he's my favorite. I went backwards. So when I'm smoking today, I got this Eora Dark. Let's see if I can do this Spanish right. I know we got Ariana on right now. Tradición tabacalera calidad superior. I don't know what it means, but I know how to sound it out. I think it's traditional tobacco. I know superior. Ariana, if you understood anything I said, will you please put it in the comments so everybody knows what I was talking about? Because I honestly don't know. But this is a great stick. I'm drinking coffee today with Parsons Proof. Shout out to the Bearded Sage. Hey, man, we miss you. Like, come back to us, please. Please come back to us, Bearded Sage. Slow clap from the Kingmaker. And shout out to everybody on the cast who can't be here today. Tiger. Oh yeah, Tiger. Tiger said he needs a moniker, so we got to figure that out. I just feel like his name is too cool to have a moniker, but
I know.
we got
the Tiger.
we got to figure out a moniker for Tiger. Karima the Truth, Nikki the Anchor. Who else we missing? I think that's it, right?
Yeah, she said it meant superior quality.
Superior quality. Okay. And it is superior quality. So let's go ahead and get into the topic. If you're listening to us on Apple, do us a favor, drop us a review, preferably 5 stars. We greatly appreciate that. But let's get some preliminaries out of the way. We got one rule at Holy Smokes. That one rule is that we respect each other's lived experience.
Say it again, Reverend.
That we respect each other's lived experience.
One more time for the people in the back, Reverend.
We have to respect each other's lived experience. And when we get into conversations about life, faith, and theology, a lot of times we lift up our doctrines and our theories over an experience that somebody has actually lived. So we try to make sure here at Holy Smokes we don't do that, and we challenge people. If you encounter somebody's lived experience that contradicts your doctrine, take that as an opportunity to learn from what they have lived. So that's the number one rule. And that is based in a brand of theology that I've curated called Greatest Commandment Theology. Greatest Commandment Theology basically states that your love for God is displayed through how you love your neighbor, which is an extension of how you love yourself. Therefore, you can't fully love God if you don't love your neighbor. And you can't fully love your neighbor if you don't love yourself. I am going to go into detail on this concept in my book that'll be released next month, which is, highly disruptive and subversive, but that's what you would expect from me at this point in life. And, the basic premise of the book is that, love for self is the foundation of love. Love for God is the apex, and love for neighbor is the connection. So it kind of flips a lot of people's ideas of love on its head, and it pushes us to think more about how does the greatest commandment apply to issues in our lives, and asking that question rather than, well, what does the Bible say about that? Which is most church people's favorite question. Well, what does the Bible say about that? That question is not as important to me as how does the greatest commandment apply here? Because what I found in these past few years, in the past couple of years at pastor in the faith community, that question is sufficient to address just about every issue that we've had. So it works for us. We also have the dollar jar. The dollar jar is incredibly important today. Incredibly important because we have the Dollar General and the Dollar Tree on at the same time. They are the primary culprits of the dollar jar. We have to monitor people's language on this show. And, we're not worried about profanity. Sometimes a good cuss word just kind of rounds out a sentence. We're not concerned about that. But with these two, you got to be careful with those academic words, because they will throw them out there and just keep going like everybody understands them. So when somebody uses an academic word and they don't define it, they owe $1 in the dollar jar. And when Grayson drops a pun, he owes $2 in the dollar jar. Kervance said $5.
No. The $5 is when we call people out, right?
You're right.
Right.
You're right.
We got to we can't mess with these tax brackets. It happens.
Right. So, oh yeah, Tiger can have a symbol like Prince. Way to go, Ariana. I like that. Tiger, aka, I don't know. We gotta call it something though.
The artist formerly known as Tiger Gibson.
The Tony. Call it the Tony since he's already the Tiger.
I like it. we'll continue to workshop it, but that's a great start. So today, how to be an ally? Question that everybody um, is thinking about to a certain extent with so much going on in society, especially racially. And then we're recording this as Pride Month comes to an end, and allyship is very important across these various lines. So we want to discuss that today because a lot of people don't even have a basic understanding of what allyship is. So hopefully we can provide some insight today on what allyship is. So I want to give my two friends to help me out and just address like this first question. What does it mean to be an ally? Kingmaker, you got anything for that?
Yeah, man. Most people before we really started galvanizing the Black Lives Matter piece only saw ally from a governmental or a state point of view, where you have one government or one country supporting another country for the sake of resources, army and military components, and to pummel um, another state or power. But when it comes down to people, it's just like-minded people, generally that don't have the same parallel, maybe physically, color-wise, or even belief system, coming together for a common goal to pummel or overcome a thought, a way of operation, or an oppression of a said people. And I think it is important for all of us to have allies in life, in business, in spirituality, in finance. But when we're now talking about the Black Lives Matter, seeing what's going on with African American men, particularly now that it is being televised or streamed, having an ally in a white counterpart, particularly a white male, that says, I realize that what is happening to you, your people, and at this time is wrong. And I have a voice, I have power, I have resources, and I have influence to partner with you to pummel this enemy called racism, to pummel this mindset of oppression, to destroy financial marginalization, voting rights, things of that nature. It is more important right now to have allies that don't look like us, but realize that what is happening to us requires their support, their voice, and their fight. So the ally piece, to me, is the most important part to any fight, to have an ally that can fight alongside you that people don't even assume you would have. But when they show up, the enemy realizes maybe we just picked the wrong fight.
Maybe we just picked the wrong fight. I like that. That's a good one.
Mm.
The pundit, what you got, man? What does it mean to be an ally?
Hey, man, I'm still kind of piecing my thoughts together. So if you want to go ahead and go, I mean, I could fumble through, but
Oh no,
if
that's
you've got
fine.
something you want to say.
Yeah. Well, I can share my thoughts. That's no problem. What does it mean to be an ally? I think for me, um, my my evolution over the past few years has broadened my perspective on what it means to be an ally. And then even in preparing for this episode, it made me think even further because I actually looked up the actual definition of ally, and something really struck me in the definition. And I'm not sure if the people who use the term ally for social justice issues had the intent of using this part of the definition, but an ally is one who pools their resources to come alongside another in a fight or a struggle, and it has mutual benefit. The mutuality of allyship is something I had never thought about in very strong terms. So we understand the part like that, what Kervance was just talking about. We're going to come together and fight against somebody that is trying to harm at least one of us, so that they'll understand they picked the wrong fight. The mutual benefit aspect of allyship forced me to think about my position as an ally to LGBTQ plus people. And I had to think to myself, what has been the benefit to me? Like, had I not become an ally to Q plus people, what benefits would I not have right now in my life? And I didn't have to think very hard. The fact that Grayson is here, Grayson is like a little brother to me. He gives me life and he wears me out at the same time, but I wouldn't trade him for the world. Um,
That's
one
so
of our
true.
yes.
Ditto.
Um,
I do wonder what our parents look like if that's the case.
right, that would be very interesting. You know, adoption is a thing. We'll just say that.
True, true.
Um,
Okay, keep going.
yeah, one of our producers, Kirkland, part of the Q plus community. Like, had I not taken the step to be an ally, I wouldn't have a relationship with Kirkland. If you follow me on social media and you see some of the pictures that I post in my suits when I tag XL Shoots, XL Tribe, that's Kirkland. Like, that partnership has been mutually beneficial, and I'm grateful for that. Some of my closest friends are a part of the Q plus community, and it is my allyship that allowed us to become friends because they knew they could trust me with their truth. But if I don't take the step to lean into allyship, they probably will never trust me with the truth that could bring harm to them if they share it with the wrong person. And I have been blessed by these relationships. And to me, relationship is everything. I preach relationship and teach relationship everywhere that I go. And I have some of the most valuable relationships that have come as a result of me pulling my resources to stand alongside somebody else and help them fight in their struggle, or for me leveraging my privilege to help them fight in their struggle. But then I've also benefited from that encounter. The second thing about it is also the opportunity to learn. I've learned so much by being an ally. My insight has been broadened and deepened by being an ally. There's so much more about life that I understand, and I love to learn. So, had I not become an ally, I would have blocked myself off from so many opportunities to learn and grow as an individual. And I believe that's something that many of us miss about it, because honestly, up until this week, I had never thought about it. Like, wow, I have benefited so much from doing this. And a lot of times I think about how much, I've sacrificed, which I have, but the stuff I've sacrificed pales in comparison to what I've gained. So that's my take on allyship. What it means to be allies, to come beside somebody, help fight in their struggle, but also recognize how much it is your struggle as well, and how you benefit from it when you join them in that fight. So hopefully, Ross, you gonna say something?
That's important because I don't think we consider um, how beneficial being an ally is to us.
Right.
Mm.
Simply because there's a learning experience that is gained when you become an ally. Um, as an ally, as you stated from the Q plus perspective, most people don't know that this past Wednesday is the 5-year anniversary of me putting the final um, attributes to what I call my brother, my little bro. He died 5 years ago, and he was the first person that was close enough to me from the Q plus community for me to not care about people's perception, because he was like my brother. And one of the things that I learned from that relationship was you can be ignorant to the realities of people because you have been so intelligent to your own reality. And when I say
Yeah.
that, I you can block out what you don't want to deal with, what doesn't apply to you. And for so many years, because he was my friend and my brother, I couldn't even see his Q plus reality. And because he knew I couldn't see it, he didn't try to make me see it. He tried to make me see the heterosexual component of him that he felt would strengthen our relationship. And when somebody else brought it to my attention, the freeing emotional response that he had when he realized that that wouldn't shift our brotherhood was one of those moments that I never forgot. But he taught me so much about his struggle, his perspective, and his world that it opened up my communication, my understanding, and my perspective of so many other worlds at the same time. And that learning made me open my perspective moving forward. And it was mutually beneficial to me because there were so many friendships, like you shared, that I gained. That if I had been shut down to being an ally to the education, to the understanding, to the relationships, getting to this point would never happen. And I think many of us miss that being an ally sets you up for other opportunities. That's the mutual beneficial part. I could never have a conversation with Grayson. I could never embrace the faith community. I could never embrace a podcast like this if I rejected being an ally. And then when you start thinking about all of the other steps that got you here, you realize that not being an ally blocks blessings that have been designed to be delivered to your mailbox of life. And if you miss that opportunity, the mutually beneficial dynamic, you miss stuff that you can't even consider because it doesn't come your way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you'd have been stuck with the faith community and Holy Smokes, regardless of how you felt, because you stuck with me. So I don't know what you thinking. I don't know what you thought this was.
You know what? There are so many things that I get stuck with you in. That's why it is called bullying. I would like for us to put a quarter in the meter and make sure that everybody parks here, so that when we're in the future and I tell you that this man bullies me, you can refer back to this moment to let you know that there are things that he forces me in a bullying little big brother type of perspective that I have no choices over. I'm a little guy.
No.
I'm a very little guy. And he pushes me to the level that it forces me to be able to just have to follow him wherever he leads me.
Dude, you know what? I'm not even about to go into all the personal conversations where you talk about how tall you are. I'm not even about to go into that.
Hey man,
no,
hey,
we the same height. We the same height. You and now you want to talk about I'm so much bigger than you.
Personal situations.
This is all personal.
You are a manipulator of
no.
You are not an ally. You are not an ally. You're an adversary.
No.
You're an adversary.
You cannot tell me that we the same size all the time when you want to push me around.
Your name is
and then
Idi Amin. Idi Amin. It's rude, man. I don't like it. You dollar jar.
Wait,
that's right.
Who got a dollar jar?
Yeah, you're bullying. That's a $5 actually.
Who?
You.
Who got the dollar jar? I want to know who.
We don't have a $5 icon, so they put that up when you're bullying. So you're in the $5 moment. Thank you.
Man,
thank you to our producers that we realize what bullying looks like. Tiger is on here. Yes. And Kirkland, remove your comments. Remove your comments, Kirkland. You're not helping the cause.
Yes.
You're not being an ally right now.
Thank you, Kirkland. Thank you. It's Kervance who's the bully and is under $5 jar. All right.
Little,
Ariana,
very athletic.
with a beard, dyed the darkest hue of black.
Ariana. E2 Ariana. E2 Ariana.
Grayson, you got anything, man? What does it mean to be an ally?
Ooh, I feel like I failed because I didn't step in and stop that conflict.
The black on black crime over here.
Don't be your stereotype, gentlemen.
Come on in the future. Don't allow him to hold you back with his flowery words. Bring it in, Grayson.
Flowery? Your vocabulary is a whole damn garden.
Exactly.
E2 Brute.
Exactly.
You are the king of being sesquipedalian.
Oh, dollar jar. Oh my God.
Dollar jar.
Yo.
I know.
Dollar jar.
Oh my God. I can't even pronounce that, let alone spell it.
My public school education won't allow me to do that one.
Sesquipedalian means a long word with lots of syllables.
Well, what better word to explain that?
Amen. All right, to the matter at hand. Yes, allyship. So I really, really appreciate all that y'all have said. Those were beautiful stories. And so it means a lot to me personally, but also just to see people being vulnerable and to talk about the ways in which allyship has enhanced their lives and bettered their lives. Because I think, at least in my experience, allyship is almost seen as like, it is a moral duty, and we should do it because it's the right thing to do. But I think sometimes people err too much on the side of just like, you shouldn't expect reward for this. You shouldn't expect to get anything for this because you're just doing it because it's the right thing. And I get that, because I don't want people to, launch themselves into a social movement or into relationships with people of different statuses and privileges simply because they're chasing a reward. The Good Place, one of our favorite shows, calls that moral desserts. So we don't want moral desserts, but we also, I think it's really important, and I wasn't even thinking about this before the episode, but I agree with y'all that it's really important to talk about how allyship actually is mutually beneficial and there are rewards to it. You don't do it because of that, but if you're, I think as it is with most things, like if you go into something, if you go into a business venture simply because of the money, then you're likely to burn out. You're likely to, use to cut corners, to do whatever it takes simply to get more money. But if you're going into business, whether it's custom clothing or consulting or whatever it is, I don't know. Those are just two random examples that came out of nowhere.
Completely random.
Right. Like,
and
you do
a random ally comment. That's a random ally comment. Go right ahead.
RAC. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to assume to know y'all's motivations, but I do know that y'all are passionate about those businesses that you run, that you started, that you continue to pour your blood, sweat, and tears into. And the benefit of it is you get freedom, you get something that you call your own, and you get money. Not to downplay it, but you're not doing something you hate simply because it's going to get you a return. So I think, as it is with allyship, like, it has benefited my life immensely. Were I to still hold on to the racist beliefs and ways of looking at the world and the limited ways of looking at the world that even I, as a moderate, more liberal than most of my classmates in high school, didn't know yet I was gay, but knew there was something about me. But at that time, it was just, I was different because I was more liberal. Even then, had lots of racist beliefs and attitudes that I had left unchecked, that I held on to, that I didn't see as racist or as a problem. And if I had cut myself off from the desire and the ability to not just ingest facts, because I think people can do that and still not change their hearts, still not change their worldviews. They'll still look at the same facts with the same lenses. and not really adjust the focus for what it is they're actually looking at. So the fact that I was provided with those facts, provided with relationships, provided with a context that would make a heart shift more easily means that I have some of the most meaningful relationships in my life. Two of which are in this podcast with me, many of whom are, at McAfee, the school that I go to, friends all over the country that I've met through conferences, friends in the Blue group for queer Black men that I go to with their permission. And the relationships that I count so valuable and so important, and I'm humbled by that there is trust enough there mutually on both ends to have a mutually beneficial relationship. It's awesome. It's beautiful. And the things that I may have lost, I think because I have been pretty openly striving to be an ally to people of color for a long time, that I haven't quite felt as much I had built all of this up and then I lost this stuff. So I can't say that I have that experience as much, but as, openly gay Christian and as somebody who advocates for LGBTQ people of color and heteronormative people of color, I would imagine there's some opportunities that I just don't know that I've missed. I would imagine that there are some engagements, some opportunities, some relationships that I don't know that I've missed, but I do know that I wouldn't have wanted in the first place.
Right.
Even this morning, I was looking through Hinge, which is a dating app, and there was just the most basic, like cookie cutter bro of a white gay dude, and it was like you can on Hinge you can choose prompts like my ideal date is, and then you can type your answer, and his was like, never have I ever watched Harry Potter. What I buy for the table is a pitcher of margaritas, and like, what is your favorite thing about you? My sense of humor. And he was an accountant who lived in Buckhead, and I was just like, oh. And he went to Alabama, Tuscaloosa, and had pictures of him like at football games, which is fine in and of itself. But all of that like signaled to me that I was like, some people find this attractive or desirable, and that's not desirable to me at all. So it has changed my perspective. It's changed who I want to spend time with. It's changed. And then that is mutually beneficial in and of itself, and like reciprocal, because I went in, I like did the work on myself, went into the relationships and continue to do the work on myself. But then it's like, when there's opportunities to be more openly allied, like in the protests or, doing quieter work in the wake of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Tony McDade and et cetera, as murders, it's like, it's not even a question. It's like, because I love these people, that's what love demands. That's what love expects. Like, because I love these people, what harms them now harms me in a different way, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I can only empathize. I can't understand. Or maybe not even empathize, sympathize. I don't know. I can't feel it in the same way, but I feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be an ally means to choose more abundant life, and to choose deeper humanity, and to choose hard questions over easy, bite-sized, pre-packaged answers that are ultimately not nutritious to anyone. Like, I would much rather have a gourmet feast with all of my friends than a microwave dinner by myself alone. And to not be an ally, to not expand your ability to love more people, means that you're stuck eating these microwave frozen dinners by yourself and then judging everyone else for the amazing abundant life that they're living. And so I just think an ally is somebody who, like I think Ariana said, is somebody who has chosen to love more fully, which is to be like Jesus. And so I think an ally is somebody who can't really proclaim themselves as one, just like, ooh, I read White Fragility and I've listened to a Maya Angelou poem once on Oprah. I'm an ally. Like, no, I think there also needs to be a sense in which the people with whom you are proclaiming to be allied need to also identify you as such. Like, I identify you all as allies because I've seen what you have done, and I see the relationship we have. But it's not something that you get to call yourself without some input.
And you said something that I think was very important about, like, we shouldn't go into it primarily thinking about what we're going to get out of it. Right. But we also should consider the mutuality, because when you become an ally to someone who is being oppressed, you have now gained a new enemy.
Ooh,
so
yes.
So you have to keep that in mind. You're going to gain enemies. You're going to have people who won't want to be in fellowship with you anymore. So if you only focus on that stuff and don't think about the mutuality of the allyship, it might discourage you from taking the step to be the ally. Because I've gained some enemies. I have some people that really don't like me. If you don't believe me, go check out my Facebook page.
They don't like you, Doc. They don't like you.
They don't like me.
Rabble rouser.
Yeah, but I don't do what I do to afflict the people that don't like me. I do it to bring comfort to the people I've chosen to partner with. And sometimes when you choose to stand with people who are oppressed, the oppressor is always going to have a problem. So now you become the enemy to the oppressor.
And I really appreciate you bringing that up, because, you know, to open yourself up to joy is to also open yourself up to the sorrow, and to open yourself up to love is to open yourself up to grief. Like, you cannot have one without the other. Like, that's why it's vulnerability. I've been listening to a lot of Brene Brown recently. She's awesome, of course. I'm a white person, I would say that. But
she is awesome, though. She is awesome.
She's incredible. Like,
yeah, she is.
And like, not just because white women love her, like, she really does the work. And I would deem her an ally, at least to, you know, LGBTQ people. But that is vulnerability, right? Like, the fact that I have chosen to chisel away at the stone around my heart that is whiteness, maleness, any other privilege that I hold, able-bodiedness, you know, to hold that privilege is also to hold someone else at bay, or to hold it unchecked, because we all hold it no matter what, but to like hold on to that privilege like with an iron fist, you know, that requires that chiseling away of that stone around your heart. And so because I had done that work with the help of lots of people, people who I made mistakes with, like, I remember when Ferguson happened, I was still very much awakening. Like, I knew where I stood, but I didn't exactly know why. And it was on the side of Black Lives Matter and that, but I couldn't really articulate why. I went up to a Black female friend of mine at a casual, like, welcome back to college party, and I was like, hey, can you tell me what's going on in Ferguson? Yeah, that wasn't a good idea.
No bueno.
I have since apologized to her. But all that to say, like, because I did that work with a lot of people who gave me more grace than I deserve and continue to, and trust and faith, I then have been able to love Black people, in particular people of color, and have that then love sent back to me. But that also means that whenever I see Ahmaud Arbery getting shot, and I, full disclosure, still haven't watched the videos, and I don't think I will, but, you know, to see George Floyd and to see Ahmaud Arbery means that I see Kristian and Kervance and Myron and Tiger and so many of, hey Pam, so many of my Black friends, and I do have a lot, and I'm not bragging here, it's just a fact that I have a lot of Black friends.
Wait a minute, I'm not your only Black friend? I'm not your only Black friend? Like, all this time you had other Black friends besides me?
Hey, Doc, you're not his friend. I'm his friend. So that's what you're just a casualty of my friendship with him.
Oh, God.
You're just my
Look,
pastor. You're a different kind.
I'm your pastor friend. Okay,
Right.
that's cool.
So my pastor friend and then the others, you know, the fact that I have a lot of relationships with Black people means that I feel a lot of pain when something happens, when we see the more high profile injustices inflicted upon Black people, because then it's like, oh crap, I'm in this. I have to sit with this grief. Wait, I thought we were the tokens. I'm
Me
not
and
sure I
Pamela,
understand.
you're token Black friends.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you are.
That's the mutual in
Y'all,
the ally piece. Yeah.
right. We're just all in this arcade of life, putting in the tokens to play the games.
Wow.
So what I want to do is like let's kind of transition here because I think we've done a pretty good job at identifying from our different perspectives what an ally is, how you define an ally. Hopefully,
Can I
people
finish
have a
that thought,
better
Kristian,
idea.
actually?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and wrap it up
Okay,
real quick.
sorry. Yeah, I was almost done. Sorry. But yeah, so I feel that pain, and that is the mutuality. But then there's also an opportunity for joy that it was previously unimaginable. So I am not of immigrant status. I was born here. My ancestors are Irish and Scottish, but whiteness wouldn't want me to tell you that. But when the Supreme Court ruled in favor of DACA, that made my whole day. Like I was overjoyed for something that doesn't affect me directly. And so I think the mutuality is so it's a web of emotions because you're tied to these other people, which means that if you are truly in relationship with them, then you will feel joys you can never before have imagined, and that's beautiful, and pains and sorrows and worries and anxieties you never before could have imagined, which is also beautiful, but it is all part of the package.
Yeah, yeah, that's good, man. So we've identified what it means to be an ally. Now let's tackle this real quick. And Kingmaker, I want you to jump in on this.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the pitfalls that people make when trying to be an ally?
Ooh.
Oh man. Sometimes one of the greatest pitfalls of trying to be ally, I think that's important in how you crafted the question. It implies that everybody is not an ally, but they will use allyship for their benefit alone.
Oh,
And
Say that
when
again. Say that again.
anytime somebody says trying, it means that your goal is not to do so. It is just to operate in the spaces that look like you're working towards it. So the truth of it is, it's not allyship. It is simply your ability to reap the benefits that an ally would reap with a one-dimensional perspective in mind.
Mm.
And that pitfall often happens because you now wear it as a badge of honor. I support Black people. I am not in this space where I'm a racist. I don't do this. I'm for everything Black Lives Matter. Here's the try. But, and
hmm.
one of the pitfalls in trying is that it is holistically focused on your benefit alone. And I think
Mm.
that's the danger in it because it doesn't have the core competence that says, I'm working for the first goal of defeating the enemy that both of us are partnering to overcome. It literally puts you in a pitfall where you operate as though you're an ally, but you underlie your operation with benefits that only come to you. And the pitfall is the people that get hurt are the people you were supposed to partner with.
Mm.
The
Mm.
people that get hurt are the people that you were supposed to come alongside and undergird. Allies often operate as scaffolding, not as support. What does that
Mm.
mean? when you look at scaffolding on a building, if they're going to restructure the building, they put the scaffolding up temporarily to get everything up to the point. Where is the dollar jar coming from?
The
I
dollar
don't know
jar
that one.
for scaffolding?
Come on, y'all.
No,
You know,
I'm
no.
gonna
I'm gonna veto that one.
leverage.
Yeah,
I'm gonna leverage my privilege and say, leave him alone. He's with me.
But when you see scaffolding, it is literally put up to create the idea that infrastructure and restructuring is happening. You don't realize what's happening. Most people walk under the scaffolding, they pay no attention to it, and when the resurrection or restructuring has happened, the scaffolding comes down. It doesn't stay forever. The pitfall of being a tried ally is that you put up all of the scaffolding that says, I'm for this, I'm with this, I'm fighting, I'm here. And then when it benefits you, you pull down the scaffolding and walk away.
Mm.
Realize that partnership says that when this part of the fight is over, I'm still walking with you. I'm still supporting you. I'm still here. And the pitfall is you believe that it's for a time. An ally, from a country perspective and a military perspective, your allies don't leave after the battle is over. They stay. They're always your ally. They're always in partnership with you. And the pitfall is most people, particularly in the allyship of the black fight, believe that they're supposed to be there for a particular portion of the fight and don't realize that the pitfall in the definition saying mutually, not exclusively beneficial, doesn't allow you that once you've got your stripe that said, I fought in that war, I helped you win that battle, now I can leave. The pitfall falls back on the person who needed you as an ally. And I need you to keep fighting with me. I need you to keep supporting. I need you to keep partnering. And many people miss the reality that the pitfall is rarely on the ally. It's on the partnered state that has been left by the ally. Because if my ally is stronger than me and my enemy realizes that they can't defeat me as long as my ally is there, if you are trying to be an ally, once you leave, my enemy can come back and attack me because I've lost my ally. And the pitfall happens to be many times we have siloed allies. They are literally there for a period of time, and they come, they fight a battle, they leave, and when they leave, the people who need them most are attacked immediately, and they never show back up again.
You know what comes to mind for me when you say that? What comes to mind for me? I've been a part of a lot of churches during the course of my life. Some of them were larger churches. So, come election time, politicians want to come to the big black church and say, "Hey, we got to do something about racial injustice and blah blah blah," and you only hear them say that at the black church. But when they go other places, when they're standing in front of white people, they don't say anything about racial justice. If you really want to be my ally, don't tell me how much you stand with me. Tell your white friends how much you stand with me.
Yep.
Tell them.
Yep.
Because they the ones that need to hear it. They the ones that need to know, not me.
Nope.
It does me no good to just go to all of my gay friends and say, hey, I stand with you, right? But then in public, when I hear people bashing them, I just sit
I don't
back.
say nothing.
Like, yeah. That's not allyship. Yeah.
I was
that's
listening
a pitfall.
I was listening to just this morning a conversation between Jen Hatmaker, who's mostly popular with white women who are trying there, and I'm going to get to the word trying, but who are trying to be allies are in this work. Jen Hatmaker is kind of like Glennon Doyle, kind of like Brene Brown. She's in this world. Recently in 2016, came out in support of LGBTQ plus people, and immediately got cut off from like the evangelical Southern Baptist world that she used to run in like immediately. And then she did an interview with her daughter, I think Sydney Hatmaker, I think that's her name, who is now coming out publicly. She had already come out to the family, but comes out publicly as gay. It was a beautiful conversation about just experiences of LGBTQ plus people in the church, what it means to be an ally. And Sydney said something I thought was beautiful. There's no such thing as a quiet ally. You can adjust the volume. Like, I think there are some who are just naturally louder than others. There are some who are at the protests, and some for whom that's just not comfortable for them, or that's not their calling. And that's one thing. So it's like you can adjust the volume, but you can't be on mute. And there is no such thing as an ally who allows certain injustices or bigoted ideas or policies or practices to persist, because then you can't call yourself an ally. You can try to get back to that status, and I'm not even sure it's a status, and more so it is revealed by the actions you take. Which is why I might disagree with you a little bit, Kervance. I agree that like allies need to be in it for the fight, so I don't disagree with that premise. But I see the word try as more, for me at least, more honest to what allyship is. And I say that because one of the pitfalls for me in trying to be more of an ally is the fear of making mistakes. And I have had to learn, and Dr. Walker Barnes at McAfee has been extremely helpful with this, that the fear of making mistakes often keeps people from speaking out. The fear of saying something wrong, the fear of using a term that's out of date, whatever, which ultimately benefits nothing but our own privilege and ego and comfort. Doesn't benefit anybody else and our own respectability. So I think trying for me reveals that I can be an ally and I can mess up and I can keep trying to do better, because I will make mistakes. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I will make a joke that goes too far. I will say something that is later revealed to be culturally insensitive, or I will, treat somebody in a way that is racist. And then a non-racist, as Ibram X. Kendi says, is somebody who denies that. An anti-racist is somebody who's like, oh, that was racist of me. I'm going to try to do better. So I think a true ally is somebody who's like, I'm going to be in this and I am going to make mistakes, but I am committed to growing from them and learning from them and trying to do better, because I see it less as like a definite status and much more of like a flexible, fluid journey. And trying to be an ally, to me at least, communicates avoiding that pitfall of trying to be perfectionistic.
So my only pushback on it is trying to be an ally isn't a step, because it doesn't require a lot of work. I'm going to either be an ally or I'm not. Trying to not be racist is a definitive decision. Trying to understand is a process. So if I want to be Kristian's friend, it's not something I have to try to do. If I want to be your friend despite your difference and our difference of gender preferences, I don't have to try not to say something that's going to be offensive to you. I have to make it my business to make sure that I understand where the lines are. And once you verbalize the lines, I just don't cross that line. And I think that's the challenge in the Black lens and the white lens, because we have had lines defined so many times in our journey. We just know when not to go far. because the white journey does not have lines, it's hard for them to understand. It's like Tallahassee Coates was talking about the difference between, he had a person stand up and ask, I always hear my black friends use the word nigga. And I
Mhm.
listen to the songs, I listen to the conversation, and I don't know if I should say the word, if I can rap the lyrics. Help me understand because it's confusing to me. And he said, that's a hard one for me. I'm going to try to explain it best I can. He said, there are words in every culture and in every sect that have boundary lines to them. For instance, my wife, I have a nickname for my wife that I only call my wife. She has a nickname for me that she only calls me. In the event that we were walking through the sanctuary and I'm shaking hands and engaging with parishioners at New Birth, and a woman randomly walks up and had heard me in this conversation give that nickname out and greets me, not pastor, not kingmaker, not sir, with that handle that is only hers, I got a problem.
Hmm.
I got a major issue on my hand because although that word is in the dictionary, it has a boundary line between me and my wife. That in and of itself is no different. I don't have to try not to call Kristian the nickname I call my wife. I got conversations and stuff I say to Kristian that I can't say to nobody else. That is not me trying not to offend somebody who's not in that relationship space with conversations that I can only have with Kristian. Now, on the flip side, if I'm Kristian's best friend and he sees me as an ally in life, in friendship, and I do something that minimizes the allyship of our friendship, I don't have to try not to do that again. Once he told me you offended me, that was wrong. Don't do that again, Ross. If I do that again, I can't keep coming to Chris and saying, I'm trying, bro. No, you just told me where the line is. I don't cross that line. So for me, the term try is a scapegoat term that
Mm.
allows you to be able to pull back and say, I'm still trying to understand. I made a mistake. I don't get it. No, once you educate yourself on something, you now don't have to try. You just have to do. So that's why the trying
Mm.
piece, as a wordsmith, as somebody who is focused on words, you can't just keep trying. So you either gonna work out or you're not. You're gonna eat good or you're not. You're going to drive or you're not. You're going to support or you're not. You're gonna be a racist or you're not. But you don't have to try to do that. That's a
Mm.
big deal to me.
Yeah, let me share a couple of thoughts on that because I also want to give my thoughts on pitfalls to trying to be an ally. Um, I think there's some nuance. I think there's some nuance there. 'Cause I understand what both of you are saying. I think it's important to understand that with those lines you were talking about, Kervance, sometimes the lines move, which creates another learning opportunity. So, an example of a line moving, black people used to be comfortable with being called colored, and that was
Mhm.
the acceptable term in society. And then that line moved because we decided we didn't want to be called colored anymore. Some white people had to catch up to that. Some still haven't caught up, which is crazy to me. Now, the people who still haven't caught up, they just don't want to know. But there
Right.
was a point in time where there was a transition, and a white person had to be told, "Hey, colored is unacceptable now." Oh, and if you're going to be an ally, you got to say, "You know what? I'm sorry, I didn't know that. I won't do that again." So like I use myself for example. A few years ago, I put this open letter to the church about gay people as I was going through my evolution. And in my open letter, I used the word homosexual all throughout the letter. And I shared it with my gay friend. And he gave me feedback. He said, I think the letter is great. He said, but let me tell you about this term homosexual. He said,
Wait, so I'm not
homosexual.
your only gay friend?
Sorry, Grayson. You know I love you,
Oh,
but nah, you're not the only one. um,
mm,
so he said, and this was my black gay friend. He said that word homosexual for gay people is kind of like the word colored for black people. It
yep.
used to be an acceptable term, but we've moved that line because we understand the history behind that term, and there's some psychological nuances to the term homosexual, which is why you won't find people in the Q plus community using that term. That's a line that has moved. So I had to say in my allyship, oh, okay, I won't use that term anymore. Thank you for telling me, because the lines tend to shift. So when it comes to the pitfalls, I got two big ones. The first one is uneducated allyship.
Woof.
Do not become an ally and not take the time to educate yourself.
Yep.
Do not say you want to be an ally and then ask all of the people that your group has oppressed to tell you about how your group has oppressed them. Go
Like
educate
I did.
yourself.
Yep.
Go educate yourself. Like, there are books, there are podcasts, there are and you don't even have to go to your black friends to ask. Like, find another ally in your group who is further along than you are and ask them about the resources that help them. Or there's this amazing, amazing resource, you probably never heard of it, but I'm gonna drop it on you. It's
What's the
called
name of it?
Google.
Golly.
Google will
Michael
change your
Google.
life. I'm telling you, Google it. Like,
Michael Google.
I'm just making this up right now. Google anti-racist resources. Google LGBTQ plus resources. Google how to be an ally to immigrants. Google how to be an ally to whoever it is you want to partner with. Uneducated allyship is a major pitfall, and it will cause you a lot of problems on your journey. The second part is engaging in allyship from a place of guilt.
Mm.
Do not allow your allyship to be powered by your guilt. Allow your allyship to be powered by your concern for justice. Because if you're always working from a place of guilt, you will make more mistakes, because
Yep.
you'll be overwhelming to the people that you're trying to be an ally to, right? It's been happening over the past few weeks with this racial upheaval. I've had so many people coming to me out of a place of guilt. I'm so sorry. What can I do? So it's a combination of guilt and not being educated. Oh my God, I didn't know all this was happening. Oh my God. The people who are dealing with the oppression have been dealing with it their entire lives. So we don't have the emotional bandwidth to come along and coddle your guilt.
Mm.
Don't operate from a place of guilt. Operate from a place of concern for justice. I'm not doing this because I feel guilty. I think it's shitty what people do to other people, but that I'm not doing what I do because I feel guilty. I'm doing it because I have a concern for justice. Also, if you do it out of guilt, you're gonna burn yourself out,
Amen.
because you'll always be like, oh, I gotta do more. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. Like you're in a sprint. But allyship is a marathon. It's a lifelong journey. And if you just try to jump in and do everything in the first week out of your guilt, you are going to wear yourself out. So those are the two things I think are pitfalls to people trying to be allies, not being educated, operating from a place of guilt. I want to go ahead and help us to start kind of wrap this thing up, because Grayson and I have to preach later today at the Faith Community for our Power and Pride worship experience. So here is my last question.
What time is that, Kristian? What time is that?
4:00 Eastern Daylight Savings Time on Facebook Live. For those of you who will be listening to this later, this event will have passed by the time you watch or hear this.
But what can they do when they get to the point they watch it? How do they still hear your message, sir?
Oh yeah, go subscribe to our YouTube page. the Faith Community Atlanta. Go check us out on Facebook. Just TFCATL. You put that in, you'll find us everywhere you go, because there will be a rebroadcast of that worship experience, and I promise you it's gonna be dope.
It's
So
gonna be good.
yeah, yeah. So here's the last question. Real simple. How can we be better allies? I want Kervance to go. I'll share something, and then I want Grayson to give us the last word. Kingmaker, what you got? How can we be better allies, man?
We've got to, number one, identify where we can support. It's not deep. It allows us to see that there's a place I have power in, where somebody who I can connect to has a deficiency of power without me. And if I connect to them with my power being my voice, my power being my perspective, my power being my resources, my power being my opportunity to create change, I become a better ally by simply stepping up for the cause and connecting. Number two, a great way to be an ally is to not just be an ally when the lights are on, be an ally when the theater is closed.
Mm,
Making sure that you are campaigning, you are marketing, you are subscribing, you are supporting when nobody's watching, when you're not on stage, when they haven't called you to speak, when they don't even know that you're doing what you're doing. Continue to cause the fight to happen behind the scenes. And number three, never change your position, change your understanding. When you say never change your position, my position is always going to be your ally. But as situations develop, as we grow, as we move, as time changes, things that and understandings of the person you're becoming an ally for develop, i.e., what you were talking about, Kristian. I may have a different understanding of my circumstance. I may have a different understanding of what used to be how we looked at our race, our group, our perspective of sexuality 15 years ago, and it's totally different today. It is your responsibility as an ally to be active in your education. Ally is like science. Science continues to shift. Science continues to come up with new understandings, new prescriptions, new revelations, different points of view. You can't be a scientist and only operate by E equals MC squared. So much has happened since that time frame. And it is your responsibility as a scientist to continually educate as moments shift. Much like a scientist, as an ally, you've got to do the continual education to make sure that you are up on what you're supporting more than you were up on it the last time you supported it.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got one simple one, real quick. If you want to be a better ally, build relationships with the people that you want to partner with. You can't be an ally to people you don't know. So if you're trying to be an ally to a particular group of people and you really don't know any of them personally, you're not going to be a very good ally. And I'm not saying, just going to them to ask them for insight on how you can be a better ally. Build a relationship. Just get to know them as individuals. Humanize the people that you've never engaged before. Because when you just have a conversation with somebody, you find out they're not the scary monster that you thought they were. But if you never built a relationship, you will never be a good ally. So if you want to be a better ally, start building relationships with the people that you want to stand beside and help them fight in their struggle. Grayson, give us a final word, man.
All right. Yeah, I think you would agree, because we've said this before, but build that relationship already having educated yourself. Not that, you're supposed to know everything about critical race theory or about, the construction of whiteness as a social construct back in the chattel slave days, or, whatever it is that is like upper level learning. I don't want to put a gate on it that like you have to know this, and this before you're allowed to be my friend. But at the same time, like there's such a risk of equating proximity with progress, where it's like, oh well, I have this black friend, or
Yeah.
this queer friend, or this woman that I'm married to, not me, obviously, but you know, this woman that I'm married to that I treat horribly, but I have sex with her, so obviously she likes me and I'm an ally to her. There's a big difference between that, because like we've joked earlier, that's a form of tokenization. That's a form of, I'm going to hold you to then use you to get something in return.
I just want to say something real quick. Like, I'm sorry, real quick, because you just dropped something that made me think. There are a lot of people in interracial couples, and to use the term that Kervance used earlier, they think their spouse is their ally when really they're their adversary, and they didn't even know they were married to their adversary. Sorry, I just wanted to drop that. Keep going. I'm sorry.
No, I'm glad you did, because that was something I was not specific to interracial relationships, but more just so, this is a topic for another time, but like, how does that play out when a cisgender heterosexual man is married to a cisgender heterosexual woman, yet the man is still patriarchal and demanding and abusive, or some combination of the three? And so I think that reveals, or as you said, you know, black woman, for example, white man, that reveals how just because you're close to somebody doesn't mean you're actually close to who they are. You're close to who you would like them to be so they can benefit you.
That's good.
We see it all the time with like, it's not just white girls, but they're fun to pick on, so we'll continue to pick on them. Like white girls who are like, oh my God, I have my GBF, my gay best friend. You'll make, like, we can talk about boys. And, you know, but when it actually comes to, you know, advocating for legislation or calling out the pastor for something they said, then they'll just be like, oh, you know, I'm just not really big into conflict. My chakra is not really aligned. And so I think there needs to be education. The shutters are open. There needs to be education. There needs to be humility. As I've said elsewhere, you know, if we are truly in an apocalypse right now, which I think we are, and I think it's a good word for it, an unveiling, the end of a world as we had known it. You know, the book of Revelation is a long book. It's not, the apocalypse is happening, go get a black friend. It's like chapters upon chapters upon chapters, because to be allies in an apocalypse or at any point is to educate, to relate, to decenter, to constantly work, to constantly be engaged, to constantly not allow yourself to be stagnant. You don't want to be like a river that's rushing and has rapids and is drowning people, like you said, Kristian, overwhelming, like, oh my God, what do I do? Or, oh my God, I just love black people because y'all are just so fun. The food's a little spicy, but we'll get used to it.
Herbs and spices.
I love Beyonce. I've seen her like 10 times. I would have voted for Obama a third time if I could. #GetOut. You know, there's that is overwhelming, whether it's guilt or adoration, whether it's hypo-visibility or hyper-visibility. Hypo meaning less than, hyper meaning more than you need. That's a river that's rushing, and water is life-giving. So you're trying to be life-giving, but you're ultimately drowning the people that you are rushing to save, more so because you feel bad about who you are than you feel good about who they are.
Ooh.
And then
that was good. That was good. Oh, that was good. Oh God. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Because at the end of the day, if you are operating from a sense of guilt, then you're just enslaving more black people to do your emotional labor unpaid. Assuage my guilt for me, please. Make me feel better about being who I am, please, because whiteness has provided me no context for that. Whiteness has provided me no context for community, for doing stuff with other people for the benefit of people and not for emotional gain or likes and retweets or monetary gain, whatever. And so it's like, well, whiteness, I have discovered, is pretty much devoid of humanity by design. Oh, the humanity's over there with the gay people who are so fun and funny and who are dressed so well, and I love their bars. Let me go siphon off their humanity to make me feel bad for the lack of my own. Let me go siphon off the humanity of Black people and their joy and resilience, even in the face of odds I could never imagine, and their good food and their good rhythm. And I'm being generalizing, but people think these things, and they are partially true. Let me go siphon off their music and their culture to make me feel better about the lack of my own. And so you have to be willing to sit with statements like that. You have to be willing to not be that river that's drowning people, because then you'll eventually just end up a puddle that poisons people, because water is stagnating and you can't be stagnant either. And that's why we can't exist in these binaries of either I am going to the protest every day and reading books constantly and fighting and having the Black friends and having the Black partner or whatever, or I'm doing nothing, because water that stagnates is water that offers life to no one. So you can't stand still, but you can't run all the time. So you have to be like a glass of water. You have to be life-giving to yourself too. We can't hate ourselves for being white. Y'all can't hate yourselves for being straight. We didn't ask to be this. Y'all didn't ask to be that, but we're here. We woke up like this. didn't even mean to quote Beyonce, but we woke up like this. So now what do we do? And so I think it's about capturing that which is life-giving and holding it in something. And then that allows it movement when we're thirsty, or it allows it to stay here when we need to take a step back. And so it's a matter of cupping our hands and capturing some of that water so we can give life to ourselves and we can provide life to other people, because ultimately we're all tied in this together. And if you would rather be comfortable than be an accomplice, if you would rather be, apathetic to being an ally, then you're saying that my comfort, that my way of life is more important than this human that I'm connected to. And in dehumanizing them, you dehumanize yourself. And we're all in this work to be better humans. So to be a better ally, be a better human, and get a glass of water.
The pundit has spoken. Listen, connect with us on Instagram at Holy Smokes Movement. Join our Facebook group. Just search Holy Smoke, Cigars, and Spirituality on Facebook. Join us there. If you want to watch these episodes, then join us on Patreon. Cubano Drip. Blake Blackman said it a minute ago. Join us on Patreon. It's patreon.com/TFCATL. And you can watch these episodes, and you can also be a part of our live virtual audience. Last thing I need everybody to do, subscribe to our YouTube page. We put clips up on YouTube all the time. A lot of great content goes on to our YouTube page, and we're going to be transitioning some more stuff to YouTube as we move forward. So search the Faith Community Atlanta on YouTube and subscribe to our page. How to be an ally. Great episode. Thank you, Kingmaker. Thank you, The Pundit. We'll be back here next time on Holy Smoke, Cigars, and Spirituality. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace out.